series did not go the way we expected at all. We got to see a Guardian Druid, which, to be honest, that didn't seem to be in the cards at all. We talked a little bit about what we think here on the desk now about that Guardian Druid. It definitely seems to have some strengths, but I don't expect we'll see it in the tournament again. What do we expect to see when we get down to the two top teams in the EU with Wildcard Gaming and Method Blackseek? Are there any comps that you're like, okay, this is probably what we see in the blind?
I think from Wildcard Gaming, it's kind of likely to see maybe the Mage Ellie Resto Druid come out again. I think from Method Black, we could see maybe the Cleave again. Yeah, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
Well, it was close. Boomkin, Ellie, and DH, DK.
Now, you know, we've had a rough day with Druids. These are obviously the two teams that you expect to play Resto Druid, but now you look at Morrow, and he's going to be on the Moonkin right now as well. Let's see what it can do for Wildcard Gaming.
There have been a lot of changes to Boomkin, and they've really lost their boon. They're bringing like good defense with bear form, but other than that, Cyclone is very expensive now. It's difficult to get crowd control. We do see good pressure initiated by Zeepai at the moment towards Raikou with that lightning lasso. Raikou jumping over to Looney, trying to switch targets. Pressure is there, but as soon as Raikou starts attacking, that leech healing is going to start stabilizing his health. Maru and Looney both trading a lot of defensive cooldowns early on in this initial exchange. Perhaps the balanced Druid could work for Maru here, but I'm not sold.
Yep, and both Method Black and Method Orange in North America have been using this composition, the Demon Hunter Death Knight comp. And the reason why it's so strong right now is both the Demon Hunter and the Death Knight provide so much self-healing to themselves that Chaz is not going to have to use as much mana to keep them alive. Raikou getting bursted down, and we're going to be looking for these lightning lassos coming in from Zeepai. It's a channeled stun that does percentage-based damage, so if Zeepai can channel that entire lightning lasso on a target, it will do significant damage, and Raikou and Swaps are going to have to be careful for that.
All right, Chaz deflects this incarnation of Morrow perfectly. No real openings found here for Wildcard Gaming just yet before dampening. Definitely of utmost importance that these Restoration Druids look for resets and try to regenerate mana by drinking for late game plays, as it is likely that dampening will be needed here in this specific matchup. Raikou getting taken down a bit, but immediately stabilized by Chaz. Swapsy and Raikou just running down Morrow, and the main reason why you want to target a balanced Druid is not necessarily because they take the most damage, but because you can eliminate both Cyclone and damage-dealing attacks by pinning them down in bear form with tons of damage. So as a melee cleave, you do want to keep pressure on the balanced Druid, so they have to at least somewhat consider defensive play, and they will not get to maximize their crowd control and damage.
So Super Tees, obviously you play the Moonkin. How do you get the most boom for your buck when you are playing this spec?
Well, Morrow here has a resource called Astral Power, which is that bar below his health, that blue one. As it builds up, he can spend that on a powerful attack called Star Surge. So if he can build that little blue bar all the way up, he can do 2 Star Surges. You want to combo that with Incarnation and crowd control on the enemy healer. So something like a Bash on Chaz and a Lightning Lasso on Raikou. Incarnation, double Star Surge, big damage,
big
huge boom for a kill in game number 1. But outside of that window, you're not really much of a threat.
Yep, just going to be a lot of sort of single target damage, or sorry, AoE damage with the dots that he has available, and that might end up costing Chaz a lot of mana later on, but at least initially, Swapsy and Raikou can sort of heal themselves through that damage. Morrow's going to have to play a little bit defensive right now with Barkskin in bear form, and the longer he sits in bear form, that's really going to be limiting the amount of damage he can do, but he won't be taking that much damage either. Will ultimately, I think, this matchup come down to Chaz and Looney looking for drinks. Whoever can escape more, whatever team can keep the enemy Druid in combat for long enough, will ultimately have the lead.
All right, Morrow setting up good crowd control on Chaz, but no damage to back it up, and no Incarnation available to really overwhelm the opposing team. Mana is fairly even so far as we etch closer to dampening. No real significant lead. Both Chaz and Looney are mirroring their innervates, so perfect efficiency there on the Restoration Druids to maximize their mana output for a late game match. Morrow He's got a bit of a Walrix cosplay going on there to survive that little bit of an attack, but now that Raikou is off of his back, he's going to be getting back into balance form, trying to get some damage up. We're really looking for Lightning Lasso. This Balanced Druid Elemental Shaman is all about one-hit wonders. Their sustained damage is relatively low outside of dampening, but when you can combine Star Surge and Lightning Lasso together, you can eradicate someone.
Definitely. Looney, I think it was Chaz that actually went and sat down for a drink, so he was able to regenerate quite a bit of his mana by doing that, falling out of combat, drinking the water, and that replenishes his mana. Swapsy into a Lightning Lasso in midfield right now. Good pressure coming in from Zeepai. It's going to be his Stormkeeper, but Swapsy responds with the anti-magic shell. That's going to be preventing a lot of magic damage for Swapsy. It's a relatively short cooldown, and one of the reasons why Death Knights are strong against casters, cast damage in particular.
On the team of Method Black, their defense, their rotational defense consists of Iron Bark for Chaz. He can use that onto any member of the team and reduce damage by a significant amount. Currently activating that, that's the glowing icon below his health. That is reducing damage on Swapsy. Perfectly timed here for Lightning Lasso. Now, if Swapsy is the target moving forward, we look below his health. That green icon with 27 seconds, that is anti-magic shield. Against a Balanced Druid and an Elemental Shaman, it effectively makes him immune to their damage. So Chaz and Swapsy need to rotate that Iron Bark and anti-magic shield. If they use them at the same time, that's a mistake. It will then create an opening for the opposing team to take him out later in the fight. Then if we look at Raikou, we can see that middle icon, the blue middle icon at the top, that is Blur. That rotates effectively with Chaz's Iron Bark as well. But now here's an opening 1 second away for that anti-magic shield. Luckily for Swapsy, it is now available and he will start to stabilize. We get into dampening. That 1 second might not be enough for him to stay alive. So I'm not sold here. Wildcard Gaming might be able to pull this off.
Well, this is one of the main problems for the composition Wildcard Gaming has, is it's going to be pretty easy to keep Looney in combat. Swapsy has his pet, really good pet control on this match. You can see he's parked his pet on the pillar, so anytime Looney tries to escape, his pet will hit him, that ghoul that Swapsy has. Chaz also moving in, looking for some crowd control, and it's basically an inevitability at this point. If Method Black can just hold on, keep up the pressure, Chaz can sneak away for these drinks. Looney hasn't had that opportunity yet in this game, already on 50% mana at 8% dampening. Things are going to be becoming increasingly more difficult for both of these teams. Morrow getting a little bit bursted down here, but should be completely fine as Raikou and Swapsy turn their attention onto Swapsy.
When you really theory craft it for Wildcard Gaming, they can run double Thorns as double Druid, and with 2 melee attackers, Swapsy on Death Knight and Raikou on Demon Hunter, you would expect that to be very effective and almost countering their composition, but Death Strike, Self-Healing, and the Leech Healing of the Demon Hunter can more than easily just deny any damage that Thorns can actually output, which is why Method Black can just simply attack through it and ignore that mechanic. Method Black have crafted this composition to be one of the most ultimate dampener comps to extend the match and attrition their opponents. They've definitely theory crafted a lot to make sure that they're bringing the most powerful option to this tournament in the current meta. Wildcard Gaming have tried to go to the drawing board and pull out this composition, and it could work, but it's going to take a lot of dampening. Looney's already behind on mana, and I don't know if they're going to be able to make it to that point.
And Method Black, this really shows the diversity in their roster. In the past, the core of that team was Raikou and Waz. They really focused on just rogue mage, but over the years, by bringing on Chaz, bringing on a player like Swapsy, it's given their roster so much more depth and diversity that they can bring in these cleave setups and play them at such a high level and basically have any comp that they need that's going to be good in the meta, they can play at a really high level. And Swapsy's always on the tournament realm, is testing out new gear, trying to theory craft which comps are going to be the best, and having someone like that on your team, sort of a mastermind, just gives you such an edge.
Good pressure here by Morrow's Incarnation. That one was devastating. A little deeper into dampening, and Raikou doesn't make it out of that alive. He's actually cycloned at low health, pausing the incoming healing and damage and potentially opening some setup. There's no setup available though for Wildcard Gaming, and Raikou stays in the fight well and healthy. Now, Looney's mana is still looking decent moving into dampening, and I think with the one-hit wonder combo in another 3 minutes by both Morrow and Zeepai, they can actually take Swapsy out. So Morrow just simply needs to survive for another 3 minutes, wait for that Incarnation so he can boost his damage so it is powerful enough to kill either Raikou or Swapsy through their potent self-healing. Now Morrow is trying to stall the game by going into bear form, and as a balanced druid, that's a super effective way at just denying damage, especially by melee attackers. So good awareness on Maro's part. We do see a bit of a setup here by Zipai, although interrupted by Raikou. Raikou moves over now towards Looney. Is he playing that Mana Rift talent? Doesn't appear to be the case. Looney jumping back to safety. Raikou switching targets, but caught in midfield. Maro sets up crowd control, but Chaz already preempted it, activating that Iron Bark right before the crowd control hit. Nice premeditative move on his part, and now Maro's on the back foot.
Yeah, I'm worried for Maro in this matchup. If Raikou and Swapsy can maintain high uptime and 25% dampening and later, he might just have to sit and bear, and then maybe there's no hope for them to actually get counter pressure in this matchup. Chaz is moving in, looking for some crowd control on Looney. Mana Rift's going to be placed there by Raikou on Looney, and Looney's falling further and further behind in terms of mana. Maro with the Thorns, feeling confident to try to get some damage rolling, gets interrupted on the Cyclone. Maybe forced into bear form once again. A full Hex was snuck in by Zipai. Nicely done. That might allow them to get some damage rolling, but Swapsy and Raikou, they're just keeping themselves up quite easily.
I mean, this is just costing all of Looney's mana to just keep Maro going in bear form. He can't get any counter pressure, just 0 damage. Incarnation activated here. He needs to get some work done. There's the double Star Surge Lightning Lasso combo. Chaz denies the kill with Iron Bark. Maro makes it annoying by cycloning it and denying its defense. Good job on Maro's part, but really just not enough damage to push him over the edge. 26 seconds away from another big push for Maro, and on that big push, I feel like they have to get a kill. I don't think Maro's going to survive another 3 minutes after that, so Maro needs to set up everything perfectly moving into that incarnation.
Yep, definitely. Triple Chaos Nova coming in. Nicely done. Imprisonment on Looney as well. Good pressure now onto Zipai. He still has his Astral Shift. He might have to trade it out. At this point in dampening, it's good to just avoid damage. It's really difficult for the healer to recover. I mean, if you look, Chaz, he's sitting down for a drink. If he got full mana, he didn't. Luckily for Wildcard Gaming, he only has about 50% mana. Looney's almost completely oom, but he's in stealth now. I think he's actually sitting down for a drink for the first time in this game. Chaz has to shut it down. Looney, how much mana did he get back? That's really going to be the most important thing, and actually is ahead of Chaz at this point. Really, Method Black dropping the ball there in the last few moments at 36% dampening. That's when you really need to be paying attention, when Looney was completely out of mana.
Method Black are making really big mistakes. Chaz is getting caught in hexes. Raikou used Darkness, and then his whole team just ran out of the Darkness's defense. Right now, Method Black are very sloppy, and it might cost them the game. Nice knockback on that anti-magic zone by Zipai. Damage still rolling in as dampening ramps up to 38%. Chaz needs to line some big heals here up onto Swapsy. If he gets interrupted on that regrowth, might be devastating. Doesn't seem to be available. Raikou getting cycloned. Mana has evened out, and Method Black's mistakes here in game 1 is an opportunity for Wildcard Gaming.
Yeah, Wildcard Gaming, they're ahead in terms of mana. Swapsy getting low, no anti-magic cell, no Icebound Fortitude, no nothing available for him. Chaz is going to have to keep him alive with a nice Iron Bark. Well timed, but still pressure onto Raikou. Activates his Blur to avoid some damage. Incarnation now rolling for Maro, looking to get aggressive. It's just a small Incarnation due to the Azure traits, but Swapsy in the meantime, a lot of pressure on him. Caught into the bash, and he could just fall right now. I don't know if Chaz has the healing. Gets Wind Shear. Nicely done by Zipai. Swapsy getting lower and lower in the matchup. For the first time, having to retreat behind the pillar. Zipai chasing in, looking for a Stormkeeper. Swapsy with a nice interrupt will shut down that damage. Chaz might be able to keep him alive, but with no interrupt, Lightning Lasso onto Swapsy. Zipai looking to close out this game, bash on Chaz, and I think that's it. Wildcard Gaming claiming game number 1.
And there it is, the Moonkin going to be able to get work done this time. There is one tune that Wildcard Gaming dances to, one Looney tune, if you will, and that is the Song of Dampening, Zico.
They love the Song of Dampening. They were born in it, molded by it. Looney, he's the emperor of Dampenville, if you will.
The emperor of the whole village.
All 3 members of that village. So yeah, I mean, what it came down to really is what Venruki and Supertees already pointed out during the cast. Looney managing to sneak off when he was completely tapped there for that drink. Chaz actually sat down for a drink as well. Chaz, though, I believe got interrupted or stood up a little bit too soon. Didn't actually get much work done with that drink. And Looney, of course, sat down, got about 60% of his mana back, and that's what it comes down to. Looney having that little bit of extra mana left in the tank compared to Chaz, who is pretty much completely tapped at this point, and that's what you got to be doing if you're Method Black. You're playing this game where you want to just stall it out as long as possible and kind of just survive with those self-healing effects from the Demon Hunter and the Death Knight. You got to make sure that Chaz is stopping Looney from those drinks because his team is the one who has the lead throughout the game.
Okay, question for you right now. You said quite a few times that you really prefer with melee cleaves seeing something like a shaman healing them. Do you think with a Demon Hunter that that's still something you want to see instead of maybe Chaz on the Druid?
Well, I think it depends on what you're up against as well. If you're playing on a big map against 2 wizards, it's fine to play that Resto Druid because you can go for drinks, they can go for drinks, right? But if you play on a small map, the Shaman, I think, is going to be king because you have so much more pressure. Your meter is going to have a lot more uptime. So even if the Druid goes away for drinks, you're going to be able to shut that down. And we've seen those Resto Shamans being able to heal to 40-50% dampening without actually going for those drinks. I think it's very, very advantageous if we see a Dalaran locked in for Chaz to swap over to a Resto Shaman.
Yeah, and also last year when you looked at this matchup, Method was 26-9. Last year, that was how many times they were able to take down the team. And now all of a sudden, they look at a place where they've been pretty dominant this year as well. Sid, do you think that they can turn it around even though they're not going to have that first advantage going their way?
And the closest we saw them come to taking down Method Black at last year, I think, was the summer finals with the nail-biter 4-3 series between the two teams. They've been going head-to-head as competitive rivals for years now at this point, but Wildcard Gaming has substituted off Walrix for Morrow, and in this particular game it worked out for them. Now moving for the rest of the series, they have to be worried about Method Black potentially playing Rogue Mage. Do not think that Elemental Shaman Balance Druid is going to have a great time against that. There's not a lot of disruption to deny interrupts on caster crowd control. Yeah. There's a lot of single target burst, and typically we would say that rogues are the counter to Elemental Shaman, so this may not be a composition that Wildcard Gaming can blind lock in here on game 2, so they might make an adaptation, but then of course Method Black has a huge range on their roster, so they could change to anything and really have an answer, but winning game 1 could decide the rest of the series because now the swing match is in favor for Wildcard Gaming.
Yeah, something we don't really talk about too much, but we haven't actually seen that much Rogue Mage, and I think that really comes down to these changes. Restoration Druid right now, they can't really afford to be using Cyclone that often, and I think in that particular composition, you have to be pushing in, getting Cyclones as a solid defense for your Mage, and also extending crowd control chains on the enemy healer so you can actually land kills. If Chaz does that and they don't manage to close out the game really quickly, he's going to go by cycloning so much. So maybe that's why Method Black has opted out of that composition just a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the big things that you noted as well before we even got here is, yes, Druid still looked strong for a lot of reasons because it has so much utility to get away and grab these drinks, but a lot of the utility that you traditionally see in setup compositions isn't going to be used nearly as much. I mean, even look on away from Druids for a second and look at Shamans. You talk about Purge, it's kind of in the same boat. It's going to be super expensive. And when we did see teams use Purge, they're like trying to save all of the mana until they hit this critical mass and dampening, and then they can just fire off a bunch of Purges and go very fast. So a lot of the utility that healers do typically use, it's going to be hamstringed just a bit moving forward with these changes.
Well, right now it's just such a high risk. If you go for that Purge all in and it doesn't work out, well, you've burned pretty much all of your mana now. You're not going to be able to drink in most of these situations if you're not a Night Elf. So what you're pretty much just going to lose the game. Whereas before, you would go for those all-ins, and your mana region would still be very high, so you could still live with very low mana left in the tank for an extended period of time, so the risk just wasn't as big compared to what it is now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is useful right now, but I grew up on a small town.
I'm wondering where the story's going.
By the sea. And
I caught your boat pun earlier, but I didn't want to...
Yeah, it happens when the sea is still coursing through your veins, much like Jaina Proudmoore. I am a son of the sea. But the thing is we're around boats constantly where I grew up. And they would always have this saying where you never go out further than half your tank, right? So you can always come back home. And I feel like that's the situation that these healers are in. Kind of. Wildcard Gaming.
That was a good metaphor.
That was actually really good.
That was actually very good.
That was beautiful.
Thanks. Thank you. Wildcard Gaming. My mom's in the chat right now. I jumped in the chat. My mom's in the chat, and she was the one who always
Irish's
she used to be, never go out further than half your day. So I just wanted to say, hi, Mom. I hope you're enjoying the games. I know the first one was really quick. This one's not going to be. This one's going to be a very long series. We expect it to go to dampening quite a bit. Hook Point, though, a smaller map for Wildcard Gaming. They're going to have this melee cleave. They're going to be able to stay close. What do you think Method Black locks in here?
Well, I think this is really intelligent by Wildcard Gaming. So Method Black losing game number 1, they had the opportunity to pick whatever map they want. And Hook Point being a really small map, I think a cleave setup is excellent for Wildcard Gaming. If they locked in the same composition, it's not as great because it's going to be more difficult for Looney to sneak away for drinks. Both the Boomkin or the Moonkin and the Elemental Shaman are going to be very susceptible to damage. But this cleave composition, they're going to have high uptime on any comp that Method Black brings to the table, and I'm really curious to see what Method Black ultimately does, because typically against a comp like this, you'd expect them to go with the Frost Mage, Elemental Shaman, Resto Druid, which is pretty strong, but I don't think Chaz is going to be able to escape for drinks, and I think Wildcard Gaming is realizing this situation and playing it perfectly.
So, Sid, what do you think? Bouncing off of that, what do you think Method Black does try to go for here?
I mean, the Elemental Shaman Mage, I think, makes the most sense. We saw it dominate in North America, but Wildcard Gaming just outplayed Method Black in terms of the picks here. They say you're going to give us a small map, then we're going to give you a cleave comp, and now they might need to go head-to-head in a cleave mirror. Maybe they stay with the same comp with a Demon Hunter and a Death Knight. I think those are likely the two options they're considering on Hook Point, and they don't have much time left. In fact, it is no time left to make a decision, and they're going to be playing the Elemental Shaman Boomkin to try and counteract the melee cleave of Wildcard Gaming, but Looney is a Mistweaver and not a Druid. There are differences here.
I think Wildcard Gaming, they for sure had this blind pick down. They had an ace in their pocket. Bringing out Looney on that Mistweaver is not something I think Method Black were considering here. They're going to bring in Waz, though, the pretty much playmaker, superstar of Method Black. But he's not going to be on that rogue. We typically see Waz on that rogue. He's going to be bringing out the Moonkin. We saw them bring out this composition last week, and they found success with it. But I don't think that they were counting on this melee cleave being something that Wildcard Gaming were going to bring out on a small map like this. I would say on a small map, Wildcard Gaming is going to look very good still, because they might be able to abuse Waz inexperience on that Moonkin Druid. We remember last week he didn't have Thorns bound among some other things that we criticized. So hopefully he does have that bound now, because it's going to be very key in landing some of that pressure.
Yeah, you know, you call Waz the playmaker of this team. I don't think that that's an unfair thing to say at all. Traditionally, we see him be exactly that, especially when he is on the road. You refer to him a lot of the time as like the goalkeeper as well. When we look at this, though, this is going to be Waz on the Moonkin. He's not going to have nearly as many tools to be that kind of player. And when we've seen Swapsy and Raikou paired together this year, I think that's one of the scariest things about Method Black, if you are their competitors, is how good the synergy between those two players has looked this year as well. Just did want to note that before we get to the point here and see if Wildcard Gaming is going to be able to put another one up on the board. It seems like you favor him headed into this one, though, Zico, right?
Well, I think Wildcard Gaming actually
that's what
has
I'm saying.
the advantage.
Yeah.
I would favor Wildcard Gaming. Not compositionally, but if Wildcard Gaming played this comp, this is the map that they would pick it on. So I think the map is going to be very, very big. I think we've seen already from Gallon that Mistweavers are very, very effective at healing some of these wizard pressures, and he's not going to need to go for those drinks, and Chaz is going to have a hard time. He's going to need to go for those drinks, and if they can stop that, Wildcard Gaming has a very clear win condition here. Just sit on Waz, get Chaz to run out of mana, wait until dampening. When the pressure is so high from that dampening, Chaz is no longer going to be able to go for those drinks, and you have a clear win condition. I think Swapsy is really going to be the X factor here. He's going to need to put out a lot of burst damage and force Looney to stay back and heal, so he cannot stop Chaz when he goes for those drinks, and that's going to be the name of the game.
I mean, let's be honest, too. You talk about how you stop Chaz from getting drinks. This is the easiest map to stop drinks on, hands down. I mean, Sid, do you even think it's going to be possible for Chaz to really sneak away at any point?
I don't think so, and I actually think locking Elemental Shaman Balanced Druid into a Mistweaver is a big mistake. That's a composition that Mistweavers excel at healing. There's limited crowd control options. They can even talent into an Honor Talent Counteract Magic to increase the healing of their Renewing Mist. They're very powerful against damage over time effects, but susceptible to crowd control. This composition has limited crowd control and many damage over time effects, so Wildcard Gaming have flipped this series really on its head, because if they can win this, they can win the swing match. They took advantage of Method Black's map pick, and then Method Black also play into their hands compositionally.
Well, Wildcard doesn't even care about the swing match right now, right? You're talking really, you look at the series and you usually say around game 3, that's where you can turn around that momentum. That's where you can take away losing on the blind pick. You look at Wildcard right now, the deck is completely stacked. They have the first one in their back pocket. Now they're going to get a nice small map with a melee cleave. They're going to be running straight for Method Black, trying to take them out, try to put them on match point. They do not have a care in the world. They are on a warpath. Will they be able to take out one of the most dominant teams that we saw from last year and assert their dominance in this year's season?
It'll definitely be interesting to see what Wildcard Gaming comes up with here. Like Super Tease was saying, Looney's going to be really good at healing through this damage, at least initially. A lot of damage over time effects coming in from both Waz and Swapsy, and with the Counteract Magic, the Renewing Mist does exceptional healing, and I think Zeepai and Blizzo should be very stable in this matchup.
Swapsy utilizing Hex defensively here, but Wildcard Gaming have not completely committed their initial cooldown attack. They are trying to go after Looney as he exposes himself in center field. They go for an all-in burst attack. Will it be enough to get the kill? No, Looney denies it. Now Waz on the back foot of this initial exchange. Looney keeps the crowd control chain going. They stun onto the trinket. Desperately trying to take Waz down. He actually jumps out of bear form at a critical moment. Now Chaz is even further behind. Waz needs to get that Thorns used here shortly. Hopefully he doesn't make the same mistake that he made last week with not accessing that ability to boost his damage against these melee attackers.
I don't mind not using it there, as Looney had Way of the Crane up. Doesn't really get too much value, but I definitely agree. Now that Way of the Crane is gone, Blizzo and Zeepai going to be vulnerable to that Thorns, but Waz still sort of just getting trained down. Blizzo actually going after Swapsy. Looney's a little bit vulnerable here with no life cocoon for another 12 seconds. Use the trinket during the last lightning lasso. Swapsy's basically playing this exactly how he should.
Okay.
Attacking the DPS isn't going to be great, but Swapsy, if he's running after Looney, constantly harassing him, he's going to be generating a lot more pressure for his team.
That is some smart usage of Thorns, using one on Waz and then one on Swapsy. So if you're playing Windwalker Death Knight, you can't not attack a target with Thorns and take that redirected damage. I think that is a good strategy for Method Black to maximize their damage. Decent pressure on Zeepai at this current moment, and we see mistakes on the side of Wildcard Gaming. They overlap their life cocoon here to try and keep Zeepai going. Although now maybe it doesn't matter. They've got so much damage. Waz once again pinned back in bear form. Chaz repositions away from the fight. Chaz's main goal is to stay as far away from the action as possible, manage his mana deep into dampening, and avoid death as much as possible. We do see Blizzo going after Swapsy. Zeepai splitting his pressure on Waz. This could be an effective strategy to run Chaz out of mana faster. Let's see how it plays out.
Yep, and one thing I noticed in this game is we often talk about Chaz and the rest of Druid and their innervates. Really important that they time that ability, so they basically get free casted spells. They can use all their expensive healing to sort of top off their team, but Method Black with this composition, they actually have Waz on a Moonkin, and they have Innervate as well, so that's a utility that the Moonkin has. He can help Chaz out with the Innervate as well, so Method Black has twice the moments in the game where Chaz can basically just free cast and try to top off, and he might need it in a situation like this as Waz is getting lower. Chaz has to commit the Iron Bark. Bark Skin already used by Waz. Zeepai and Blizzo putting out a ton of pressure. Waz forced into bear form for so long. Swapsy has to look for some counter pressure here as he marches towards Looney, looking for a lightning lasso. But Looney so far in this matchup has been doing a pretty good job avoiding him. Chaz in cat form looking for potentially a drink right now. Gonna make Zeepai and Blizzo, although he's not actually sitting down for a drink, just the fact that he's in stealth is gonna freak out Wildcard Gaming.
Chaz not able to regenerate too much mana in that attempt, and this is why Wildcard Gaming went for the melee cleave on hook point that Method Black gave them. Maybe on a larger map, Method Black would have the advantage, but on the small playing field, Wildcard Gaming can turn that advantage in their own favor. Blizzo gets stunned up and bursted by Method Black. How are they going to respond is the question. Diffuse Magic is very effective against this composition, removing all damage over time effects and reducing magic damage significantly. Fair trade for Blizzo. Now it's time to get aggressive. Chaz is slowly but surely denying this damage with Iron Bark, and now looking to sneak away for a drink to regenerate mana. Both Looney and Zeepai see him in the corner and are able to stall it out despite Swapsy's efforts to assist. Chaz is not able to find that regeneration, and deeper into dampening, it's going to eventually cost them.
I think it definitely could. And thank you, Rich, for the sound effects. Touch of Karma is going to be used by Blizzo as he's making a push here onto Waz once again, trying to counter pressure this Incarnation. Waz with the Thorns, with the Incarnation, is going to be able to put out quite a bit of damage. We look at mana. It's relatively even. There's not a big lead for either one of them right now. Chaz may be a little bit ahead, or it's almost exactly even. So really not going to be an advantage there. Chaz has been sneaking away, looking for the drinks. So far, Wildcard Gaming has been able to shut it down. And I'm not actually sure, Sid, who do you think does have the advantage as we move forward to
If we get to 60% dampening and Chaz has mana, then Zeepai dies. But if they can't get to 60% dampening with mana, then Wildcard Gaming are going to win. And I think that's basically as simple as the outcome as I can assess with the way that these compositions are faring so far. Wildcard Gaming actually have a lot more momentum before dampening as well, which is bad news for Method Black, because that's going to cost them a lot of mana to recover from.
Yeah, definitely. Chaz getting interrupted there. Swapsy getting lower. He traded out Trinket and Astral Shift in that last exchange, and he's not out of the woods yet. Chaz has to use the Iron Bark to keep him alive. Thorns tossed in by Waz. Waz with a great innervate there, allowing Chaz to basically free cast, get Swapsy's health topped off without really using too much mana. Mooney in a good position, trying to just keep up the Renewing Mist, the Serpent Jade statue. Every time he uses Soothing Mist on a target, a Serpent Jade statue will also heal that target, and that's a lot of free healing that Wildcard Gaming has available. And I think it's one of the reasons why Mistweaver Monks are relatively mana efficient at healing is because of that statue.
I think something important to note is that Elemental Shamans and Balanced Druids both received nerfs to their mana regeneration as well, which is going to limit Healing Surge and limit Cyclone. Deeper into dampening, that could be critical for Wildcard Gaming to pull off a victory. They already have substantial momentum here in game number 2. Method Black with strategical mistakes, and they're completely being exploited by Wildcard Gaming. They're going to have to get their act together for the rest of the series if they want to stay in the upper bracket. Things are not looking good for them.
Yeah, definitely difficult. Swapsy still got a little bit low there. Chaz manages to top him off with the Iron Bark, but it's Chaz. He's sitting in stealth for long periods of time, trying to sneak away for these drinks or trying to just freak out Wildcard Gaming, one of the two, but he's just not able to actually sit down. Blizzo getting bursted down quite low. Not Lightning Lasso by Swapsy, but Swapsy's still the one that's in trouble. Trying to cut away with Ghost Wolf. Blizzo feeling very healthy to charge in and get aggressive with this Touch of Karma activated. Leg sweep now onto Chaz. Going to be denying incoming heals. Swapsy getting down low once again, does have the Astral Shift if he chooses to use it. If Wildcard Gaming can get the Astral Shift here, that's going to be huge because Touch of Death will be available. This is what I'm talking about. This is a lot of momentum for Wildcard Gaming. Blizzo, Touch of Death available. He has a Storm Earth and Fire. Right now, Wildcard Gaming, they can go for the all-in push. Looney needs to find some crowd control onto Chaz. Just a moment onto Swapsy where they can actually connect some damage, and I think they can close out the game.
Currently, Waz has Incarnation up. He has to be the playmaker. He's trying to save his team with a Cyclone, but gets denied by Zeepai. Swapsy dips low. Huge damage deep into dampening. Maledicts are soaking up the incoming heals. Chaz is struggling to recover, and this could be moving to match point, and it will. Wildcard Gaming punishing the mistakes of Method Black in game 1, completely flipping the strategy in their favor in game number 2, and they are looking like a different team this year. Method Black, they need to get their act together.
Outstanding. It looks like they have absolutely everything that they need in their hand, and they are doling out win after win. Zico, let's see how we managed to get on match point this early in the series.
Well, it's just the map, again, we talked about it time and time again. The strength of that Elemental Shaman is that they are very, very hard to catch as a melee cleave, but Blizzo and Zeepai are going to have a fantastic amount of uptime here on hook point, and we saw Chaz as well not being able to go for those drinks because when he did, the damage that Swapsy was taking was just way too much. You see here Waz is left free even with that Incarnation up, but still not being able to really do too much on that Balanced Druid because you need to stall out the game to a later point, and it's just so difficult to do. They completely flip that map pick on its head and just take that serious. And now Method Black are on match point.
I actually have a question really quick here because I was seeing this a bunch in the chat. They were talking about the amount of hexes that actually went out. One of my favorite streamers, when he's always in a situation like this, though, he's always like, you can't go for the bloody X there. You can't go for the X. Can you get a hex here?
Wait,
I think...
who does that?
Yeah, who was that?
Really? It doesn't matter. Can you get the Hex there or not? We don't have much time.
I don't think so.
Okay, you can't go
think
for the Hex there. So that was one thing that I definitely did want to let everybody in the chat know, because they kept saying we're not seeing the Hexes at all. You don't know who that is?
No.
Oh, you guys are cooked. All right, we're going to a quick break. When we return, we might see this series come to a close. Anomaly. They're a team that has had such consistent performances across so many different metas in this game. They are a team that has learned throughout so many different cups, and usually they come out on top. To see them in this situation is a complete anomaly as well for what we expect from this squad, and that just goes to show how dominant Wildcard Gaming may be throughout the year. Zico, I remember when this team was still known as XRB to the Moon, when they still had Walrix on the squad, and we were sitting there, and I believe it was actually your first full season of being an analyst, and one of the first things that you ever said on the desk is, this is the team to look for. This is my favorite team for the entire year. And they definitely had a strong performance. They had some decent land performances as well, but I don't think they ever hit that peak. Is Morrow that piece that is really bringing them up to that next level?
Well, I think Morrow, he's an interesting player because he mains that mage, which doesn't synergize too well with what Wildcard Gaming runs, but they've been able to incorporate him very well with that Ellie mage, with the Windwalker mage, and I think a big reason to why they pick Morrow over Warwicks for this season is Warwicks, he is the king of warlocks, but that's more or less all that he is. Whereas Morrow seems to be a little bit more flexible in general as a caster. And I think similarly to what Method Orange is doing, they want to have someone like Sam I Am who can play the mage, who can play the Moonkid, and then you can try to have him as kind of the wizard king for the team.
It's a really interesting thing as well, because we get here to this season and Warlocks look insanely strong, but how many times, Supatis, did Walrix look like he was in a bad spot last year?
I mean, not very often, but that's usually because he was playing Demonology, Elemental Shaman, Restoration Druid, which was potent throughout most of Legion. Now in Battle for Azeroth, Demonology not really the new hotness that it was. So Walrix is starting to fall off in terms of relevancy. I think he's either going to have to pray for a good patch or start picking up some different casters if he wants to be able to get back into the action.
Yeah, it is really important to talk about, sort of flexibility of players on these rosters. When things are changing week to week, month to month, a patch comes out, you don't want to be that player that can only play one class, your class isn't good, and you're basically just dead weight on your team.
Yeah, I think, too, if you're a Warlock coming out of what we saw last year, you're probably sensitive to that as well. And we saw a lot of mages and a lot of Warlocks, Zico, be in that position at times where that was really all they played.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best example of that, I think, was Super Frogs at BlizzCon last year. It really didn't get too great results. We saw a lot of changes with BFA hitting, Windwalker Monks not going to be in a great spot, Warlocks weren't in a great spot. That was before the Demon Armor buff really came through, and then we just saw, okay, all of these melee cleaves is kind of what is the flavor right now, and we just saw a really, really strong team fall off just because they didn't have that flexibility. So, of course, flexibility is very, very important. But now we actually get to see our first rogue mage, I believe, in a long time, at least for the fire mage. We have seen some frost mage resto druid, and we talked about frost mage resto druid being kind of good because of the frost mage having all of those snares, being able to stall out the game for a very long period of time, allowing the druid to get those drinks. But a fire mage takes a lot of damage. They don't have access to that slow. They are very susceptible to just being taken down, frankly, and they are more of a high-risk, high-reward pick here, and on a big map like Tolveron, I don't think Method Black has the greatest pick here. They're going to have to make up for it with a lot of individual skill.
I do think it's funny when we haven't seen a rogue mage for 2 days, that's considered a long time.
So it's been an eternity.
Forever.
Yeah, even Jamie's like, I miss rogue mage. Yeah, no, it's been...
Jamie is not saying that.
Yeah, no, I 100% Jamie right now saying that he missed it, but I think one of the things to think about is who has played rogue mage, because it's been a little bit weird. Like, we've seen, I think Jamili probably is probably the last person that we saw play it, and they were in such an interesting position with what they brought as far as healers were concerned. Finally, Rogue Cup does get pressured to actually go onto the Resto Druid.
They also got owned.
Well, they only played one game of Rogue Mage, and it looked worse than Windwalker Mage.
Yeah, exactly, and I think a lot of the reasons go back to what you said. What is Rogue Mage if it's not about having clean setup? And when the Druid can't be involved in that, when you can't see something like Disc Priest that can traditionally be involved in that as well, where are you going to get that clean CC that actually is your win condition? It's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and it's already a little bit what we've been alluding to with the mana changes. Druids, in particular, have been forced to kind of play a little bit more defensive, a little bit more conservative with their mana. And for Rogue Mage, you need those setups. And I think, actually, Fire Mage, Resto Druid, Rogue Mage, I don't think we've seen that at all this whole weekend, because the Fire Mage, like we mentioned, takes a lot of damage. The Druid is going to have to go for a lot of drinks, but the Druid also has to go in there and get those Cyclones. Chaz is going to have a very, very difficult job to do, and this is also the biggest map, so he's going to have to push in long distances here to actually get this going. I don't think this is something that Method Black wanted to pick. I think Wildcard Gaming has just been dealing a great hand so far.
And I think this is always kind of that secret weapon of Method Black, too. When they feel like they can move back to something, it is going to be that Rogue Mage. When you look at this team at the beginning of last year, you go, hey, look, they're one of the best Rogue Mage teams in the world, and then they don't even need to play it. Waz just jams the Pirate the entire time and sails to victory. But now let's see what they can do.
Yep. It looks like Method Black, they're looking to ante up in the series, looking for some damage early on Morrow. Combustion does get used by Raikou, so this is good initial aggression by Method Black. Looney using the Bark Skin as well on himself. And sort of a split strategy is coming in. Waz is just deleting Looney. What is happening right now? He's just trapped in this room. Another
Greater Pyro.
It's going to be used. Greater Pyro Blast does connect, doesn't do too much damage. Looney with the damage reduction ultimately will survive, but that's a great start for Method Black.
You can tell that Zico and Elliot are happy to see Greater Pyro Blast here in game number 3, as they've been having a real blast with it at home. Multiple Greater Pyro Blasts being casted out here by Raikou, and a Cyclone now at respectively low health. I do think compositionally the Rogue Mage does do well into this. There's not enough disruption. Raikou just freely casts Greater Pyro Blast. I would like to see the team Wildcard Gaming reposition so Raikou can not just stand in one place channeling these over and over.
Venruki, I've had the pleasure of being your friend for a long time. I watched you as a competitor before that. There are not many times I've seen you have like a true smile and just be this happy.
Really?
As when you
that much of a grump?
Usually when I'm talking, you are. But
grumpy.
every time you see a Greater Pyroblast casted, it is the purest joy I think we've ever seen. What is it about Greater Pyroblast that makes you enjoy it so much, seeing these big, giant G-Pies coming through?
Well, it's a casted spell, and it feels rewarding for getting it off. I mean, you channel it out for 4 seconds. If you do manage to get that cast off, you know something's going to happen. And it's one of those spells in the game right now that just can create windows of opportunity out of nowhere, whereas Frostbolt, it's going to be a little bit less damage. When you cast it on someone, you know really not too much is going to happen. But with the Greater Power Blast, you're constantly finding these moments of burst.
Good crowd control initiation here by Method Black over towards Z-Pi, but Raikou unable to get any gigantic Greater Pyroblast off in this position now that Wildcard Gaming have moved their butts around on the map. Although Morrow is just staying in midfield. I'm not really sure how he hasn't been punished for that, with Raikou constantly casting these Greater Pyro Blasts. I do think that that's going to be a weakness that Method Black can exploit moving forward, and Morrow needs to be much more aware.
Yeah, definitely. Morrow's going to be interrupting that cast, and that's really what it's going to come down to for Wildcard Gaming. They need to slow down Raikou in this matchup, and it is a stall game for them. Looney not doing too great on mana. I don't know if Chaz has managed to sit down in this fight just yet. Now quite far away, Looney's going to be chasing him, and I'm actually curious to see which one of these Druids has more mana. At this point, it's relatively even. Actually, Looney a little bit behind. Raikou getting a lot of burst damage off. And that's the thing, if Raikou can free cast these Greater Pyroblasts, Looney, that is so much mana he has to use to heal up through that damage, especially with Waz on the Assassination Rogue having that healing reduction. Z-Pi trying to get some counter pressure here onto Raikou, but Raikou's been having a field day on this Fire Mage so far.
Pressure back and forth. Greater Pyroblast gets interrupted by Z-Pi. Good denial. Morrow looking to strike back with this Incarnation activated, boosting his damage. This next Star Surge could hit hard. Not able to find it, holding on to it for now, waiting for crowd control on Chaz, looking to line up burst together. Morrow is just soaking all of these Greater Pyroblasts in midfield, and eventually this is going to get punished. I do not think that he can continue taking this fire from Raikou. Waz getting counter pressured away by Z-Pi as he tries to carry the team on his back. They're on match point. Is Wildcard Gaming going to be able to knock Method Black to the lower bracket 3-0? They've got a significant mana lead in this position, and they're looking strong.
Yep, Chaz with the Innervate trying to keep his team alive. Incarnation available for Morrow is going to be able to get very aggressive at some point. Smoke Bomb does get dropped out, but Raikou Raikou not able to get the Ring of Frost onto Looney, and unfortunately without that crowd control, really not too much damage is going to be happening. Zeepai with a nice interrupt here. And I think Wildcard Gaming at the beginning of the game, they really weren't handling the Greater Power Blast well at all, but now they've been doing a much better job to slow down Raikou. Chaz sitting down for a drink. Looney's trying to chase him and manages to find the Vortex. And I like wasting Chaz's time. He sits down for 3-4 seconds, hasn't regenerated any mana yet, but during those 3 or 4 seconds, he hasn't been able to heal up his team, and that's an opportunity for Wildcard Gaming to start getting some damage, some pressure. So denying the heals, but waiting a little bit so Chaz wastes his time is a good strategy from Wildcard
Trying
Gaming.
to focus in on how Method Black can find victory. They just made a swap to Looney, and they got his Bark Skin. So if they make another swap and catch him out of bear form, they can get his Glidier's Medallion, which he would normally like to use during blind. So I think Method Black are going to look for that opportunity. Currently going after Morrow. They definitely need to do it soon. They've only got 30 more seconds until Barkskin is available for Looney. Looney's just playing max range away while his team rains down Devastation. Raikou moves over to try and find him, doesn't find him, and Looney's likely resetting back to a full mana bar. We'll have to wait and see here as he comes out of stealth. Definitely significantly far ahead, moving into dampening over Chaz. We see a Maledict attack here towards Raikou. Nice Lightning Lasso, although getting a bit of a miscommunication that you do not want to immune the Lightning Lasso damage. It's the hardest hitting spell on the team of Wildcard Gaming. A little bit of a miscommunication, a misfiring by that Cyclone of Morrow. Although the pressure is just mounting itself. If Chaz can't regenerate mana, eventually the damage output of Wildcard Gaming could overwhelm them, and this isn't looking good for Method Black. I've not seen Wildcard Gaming have such a good showing against Method Black in any tournament prior. This is a good start to the tournament season for Wildcard Gaming.
Yeah, definitely can't count them out. You know, one thing Method Black does have going for them in this match is how much single target damage they have and the healing reduction from Waz. So that's going to be basically accelerating dampening by 25% for Waz. Chaz almost completely tapped on mana. If Raikou and Waz can find a nice push on, I'm not sure who, if it should be Zeepai or Morrow. I would assume Zeepai in this matchup. Normally Rogue Mage, they like to go after the Elemental Shamans, but he still has his Trinket, he still has his Astral Shift, he's going to be tanky. Looney almost has the Iron Bark. Chaz pushing in for some crowd control, finds the Bash Cyclone on Looney, but every time he goes for those Cyclones, it's going to be using quite a bit of his mana, but I feel like Method Black, they have to take those risks in this matchup if they want to win. They managed to get the Fireblood Racial from Zeepai, so he won't have that available during Vendetta, which is a big win. Raikou finds one Greater Fire Blast onto Morrow, but I think Looney should be able to easily heal through that damage as all 3 members of Wildcard Gaming push in, looking to really pressure down Chaz, forcing him off the pillar and to run away. But they need to chase. They can't allow Chaz to get away behind the pillar by himself, and Looney, realizing this, pushes in. This is another thing I've noticed from Looney in this game. Every single time Raikou gets these Dragon's Breath, he's in cat form or bear form, so the only option Raikou really has is to get the Ring of Frost, which makes it much easier for Zeepai to deny any sort of follow-up poly or just interrupt the Ring of Frost if he can. So very important for the rest of the Druids playing at home. If a mage is harassing you with Dragon's Breath Sheep, you want to be in bear form, so they only really have that option. With Ring of Frost, and your team can help you out a lot easier.
Both teams in Game 3 are playing a round of Run Kitty Run as these Druids need to sneak away and get drinks to regenerate their mana for a late-stage dampening kill. But at this point, Wildcard Gaming are overwhelming Method Black and suppressing any opportunities that go their way. Waz finally pulling the trigger on Vendetta and having to run away with it. Now getting cycloned up. That damage is completely denied. Raikou's left alone in midfield. Huge attack by Wildcard Gaming as Chaz has basically nothing to recover. Likely an ice block. Capacitor Totem sniped out Chaz. Raikou's desperate. Ring of Frost defensively onto the Balustrade. Looney jumps over to Dispel to get Morrow back into the fight as soon as possible. Chaz crosses the map. Looney, Morrow, and Zeepai need to be in hot pursuit to deny this mana regeneration. Chaz sits down. He's starting to get some sips, but Waz got left behind. He's getting bursted. No Cloak of Shadows. Manages to vanish away from the fight, but even that may not be enough, and Chaz is completely strangled out on mana. He's got nothing left in the tank to keep this fight going. Looney still has a bit more moving forward, and they need a miracle. Method Black absolutely need a miracle to come back in this.
Yeah, looking for a greater Power Blast, unfortunately not finding it. Raikou still has this Combust. If they can pull out the Astral Shift before Combustion, that's a window for Method Black to actually close out the game. But right now, Method Black, they have nothing going for them. Wildcard Gaming, to their credit, they have played out this series beautifully. Every single one of these maps, all these comp picks, perfectly crafted into Method Black. Raikou looking for a Combustion kill right now with good pressure onto Zeepai, but not even forcing out the Astral Shift. Zeepai is going to be completely fine unless this Greater Power Blast goes off. Morrow interrupts it with the Solar Beam, and that's the thing about the spell is during the early stages of the game, you can sit there, free cast, tank a lot of damage, but later on, if you're in midfield for 12 seconds looking for greater power blast, this is what happens. You get stuck, and Marl and Zeepai can force out that ice block. Now Raikou doesn't really have too much left in terms of defense.
I mean, at this point, there's no windows. Raikou is just stranded in the middle of the map. That's not where you want to be against Wildcard Gaming. Even one more hit could just take him down, knock him to the lower bracket. Lightning Lasso turning this match into a rodeo. Cyclone secured onto Chaz. Raikou is still alone. Iron Bark is the only thing stabilizing him, but even still struggling to top off, manages to get at least to a healthy margin of health. There's a smoke bomb, there's a vendetta. Zeepai does not have a Gladiator's Medallion. There's an opportunity for miracles here if Waz can be the miracle maker. Can he do it in time? Raikou's got nothing.
Maledict onto the Fire Mage is cauterized. Such a counter there from Wildcard Gaming. Beautifully done. Nice setup. Well executed by Wildcard Gaming and Method Black. They got destroyed in this series.
How many teams have actually been able to step up to Method Black and 3-0 them? Wildcard Gaming looks like a force this year. They were a force last year as well, but this year it just seems like everything is gelling on a whole different plane, because when you talk about what Method Black typically can do, Zico, how many series do we see them play like maybe a different comp every single time around? This time they don't have a single answer.
Well, they just got completely outpicked on every single map. This is also the risk that you run when you go for the big map or the small map right away instead of some of those neutral maps. You put yourself in a situation where, well, the enemy can just blind lock a cleave on a small map. They beat the dealer. You know, what can you do here? If you pick Hook Point as your second map instead of, like, let's say Asherman's Fall, then this is what you expose yourself to. If you pick Asherman's Fall or Tiger's Peak, then you have a smaller, you have a neutral map where you don't necessarily want to lock in that melee cleave right away, because then you might face the Mage Alley or something else. But Wildcard Gaming, they seem to have the recipe for success here with the double caster cleave we've seen so far, the double melee cleave, and we know they have melee caster healer as well because we've seen them run that Windwalker Mage in the past.
They have everything, and they also have the first seat in the grand final. They have already made their way there. Now, important to note, Method Black not going to be out of the tournament. They're going to be going up against We Were Here next. I can't get over this, though. A 3-0. How many times have we actually, like look at Method Black's run. 3-0, 3-0 in their favor. Now they get here. This is the first series that they lose, and it's just it's such a strong performance. I need to double check right now. Wildcard Gaming, yeah, 3-1 against We Were Here. They were the team that actually did knock them down. That's what I thought. So you look at the field of play. How does Wildcard Gaming not win this tournament, Supatis?
I mean, it's looking really good for them. They definitely out-strategized Method Black in that series, and they capitalized on significant mistakes in Game 1 to at least have a swing match advantage. They were just ahead in every single regard. They came well prepared on the current meta, and they're performing phenomenally as a result, and they may be our new champions here in